Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallon, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin.
Welcome to Shift, the podcast where top entrepreneurs and industry experts share their most powerful insights on mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you build and scale your business with sustainability in mind. Our guests, Brian Carruthers, Onyx Coale, Anthony Napolitano, Sarah B., Steve and Gina Merritt, and Wes Linden each bring a wealth of experience and unique perspectives on what it takes to not just build a business, but to sustain it for the long run. Brian Carruthers shares his approach to building trust with prospects and teams while breaking down the three phases of leadership: becoming a leader people want to join, a leader people want to follow, and ultimately, a leader who develops other leaders. Onyx Coale emphasizes the importance of systems over personality, explaining how a sustainable business is built on processes that can be replicated at scale rather than relying on individual charisma. Anthony Napolitano reveals his 5-step system for success, highlighting the importance of building relationships first, mastering the invite, and structuring a business for long-term duplication. Sarah B. reflects on her transition to online business building, the importance of social selling skills, and why mindset shifts are critical in an ever-evolving industry. Steve and Gina Merritt debunk the myth that success only comes from being at the start of something new. They share how to create fresh energy and momentum even within an established company. Wes Linden's journey to success took over 15 years, and he explains why patience, consistency, and staying focused in one place are key to building a lasting business. Whether you're just starting out or looking to reignite your business, this episode is packed with actionable insights to help you build a business that lasts.
I would say trust is kind of like a big conversation, and maybe in most environments, kind of the lack thereof. So I'm curious, like your perception on just the topic of like, how do you build trust within your team, within your community to kind of earn that right to lead them?
Let me start by answering that. For that answer, that question could be also addressed towards how do you earn it towards your prospects in the attraction process, along with how do you do that within your team that you're building. In the attraction process, everybody's already heard this before. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. But if you've got a stranger, they don't know you, they don't like you, and they don't trust you. So immediately in that first conversation, they're not going to really know you and they're not going to trust you. But you can get them to like you pretty quickly. If you are acting interested in them, ask them questions about them, act like you care about them, pretty quickly they'll like you, which will buy you the time that you can build rapport and get them to know and trust you. There are two different ways that I recruit people. I used to call it the GAP method, which was grab a pen. And I would call people up on the phone. I would say, hey, it's Brian Carruthers. You're interested in a home-based business. Like, I would work leads, for example, people that are looking to start a home-based business from home. So I would call them up. I would say, hey, Blake, it's Brian Carruthers. We never met, but you were interested in our company's work from home program. I wanted to get back to you as soon as I could. And so I want to get you some information. Can you grab a pen real quick? And you would grab a pen and I'd say, all right, write down this phone number and listen to the recorded overview that explains what we're all about. It'll take about 10 minutes and we'll talk afterward. So that's how I recruited a lot of people, the GAP method. It was speed, baby, speed, like get on and off the phone. Just get them in front of the information, a third-party tool. Back then it was a conference call. Now it's like a video, or now it's inviting them to a Zoom or whatever. But it was real quick, no time to build rapport. I didn't get to know them. They didn't get to know me. I just speed going through the numbers. That's one approach, and it's still effective. The other one that you're talking about is slowing down to speed up, which is the rapport approach. Slowing down, share your story with them, ask them what their story is, and stop selling, start solving. Stop recruiting, start solving. You can't solve a problem in their life if you don't know what it is. And the other thing is, you don't want to pick on their problems and you don't want to make them feel bad. So the way that I learn and way I teach people to do it is craft your story in a humble, vulnerable way where you say, hey, here's what was wrong in my life. Can you relate? Have you ever felt that way? Lack of time, lack of money, whatever. and you're seeking me too. And as soon as you got them saying or thinking, yeah, I feel you, brother. Yeah, I can relate to that. Well, so here's what I had to do. I found a mentor and I'm now working on a project. And I've never felt this excited about my future, ever. I finally found a solution to that problem. You want to see what I found? How in the world are they going to say, I got the same problem as you, but I don't want to see your solution? So when you can craft your vulnerable story, you appeal to their heart. They feel bad for you and they can relate because they feel the same way. And now when you introduce your opportunity to them, they want to see it. They want to hear it versus you just throwing an opportunity in front of them when they weren't even looking for something. They don't know why they would need something, and then they shut you down right away. So you got to open up their door of receptivity by using a vulnerable story of your own.
So good. Well, keep going. So like that's trust on the recruiting side. So they come through the door, you're building a team. You now have led hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs. So same question on the leadership side. And any insights, any tips, any lessons when it comes to leading and moving people?
My good friend Darnell Self, I think you might know Darnell or have heard of him, but he and I did a training several years ago. We called it the Network Marketing and Leadership Academy. And it took us literally 6 hours to cover the topic of leadership in our industry. And there are basically 3 components to it. First, you have to become a leader that people want to join. Then you have to become a leader that people want to follow. And then you become a leader who develops other leaders. And it literally took us 6 hours to convey everything inside of all that. So in a nutshell, in like 2 minutes or less, becoming a leader who people want to join is not just recruiting. Because like I already showed you guys, I just explained, I could recruit Blake by asking him to grab a pen and writing down a phone number, or nowadays saying, hey, I'm going to text you a link, watch it, and let's talk after. And he watches a video. He likes it. He calls me. I talk to him after. He says, I'm in. Sign me up. Was I a leader that he wanted to join? He still knows nothing about me, but I was still able to recruit him. So there are recruiting tactics that do not require you to be a leader that people want to join. But soon enough, whether it's in the onboarding process, the launch process, at some point, they're going to need to learn who you are to decide if you're somebody that they truly want to hitch their wagon to. So becoming a leader that people want to join, then becoming a leader that people want to follow. Now, you'll know if you're a leader that people want to follow. If you're a network marketer right now, look behind you. Like, is there anybody there? If there's nobody there, then you're not a leader that people want to follow. Now, sometimes this bums people out. They're like, oh, well, because here's the thing, Blake, we throw around the word leader in our industry all the time wrongly. Like, just because somebody's in the business and has 10 people in a downline does not mean they're a leader. It means they're a distributor with 10 distributors under them. They're not, well, let's split hairs. They could be a leader because we're always leading by our example, but they might be a bad example. They might be a bad leader. Like, they're not doing anything to help their team. So they're leading poorly. They might be leading, but they're leading poorly. So becoming a leader that people would want to follow, I'm a big believer in exampleship. And that's why people say, Brian, you're the number one earner in your company. You've recruited all these people. You built such a big team. You got all this income coming in. You don't need to do it anymore. Why are you still one of the top recruiters 25 years in? You know, I've recruited 10 people every month at minimum for my first 10 years in my company.
Wow.
And last year I recruited like, I don't know, for the year, I think it was like 64 recruits for the year, something like that, when a lot of people never do that in their whole career. And so why? It's because I'm a big believer in people would rather watch a leader than to listen to one. I can get up on stage and tell people what to go do because I know how it works, but I'd rather get up on stage and say, hey, let me tell you a story about so-and-so who, here's how I just recruited her 2 days ago. Here's how I launched her last night. Here's how she just got her fast start bonus. I want to be relevant. I always want to stay relevant. I think I can help more people become successful by staying relevant, by staying in the trenches. So becoming a leader that people want to follow, why would somebody want to follow you? And also personal development plays into that because look, whatever goes in comes out. Like when you open your mouth, do you sound like a leader? Well, if you're not listening to the right audios and reading the right books and attending the right events and getting around the right people, if your associations and your content intake is not making you sound smarter and lead better and be more equipped to help others, then that's where you should start. Like, decide. Success is a decision followed by daily choices. Make a decision to lose weight. Okay. That means eat less and work out more. Make a decision to be a better leader. It means to intake more and give more. So do you have value to give? And are you intent on giving it constantly? And then becoming a leader that develops other leaders, teaching people how to do the process you just went through. And that's where you separate yourself from being a big earner and then being legendary. You want to be a legend, develop a lot of big earners, but you can't do it if you can't teach it if you haven't done it.
You started once, 7 years, right? Reached the heights, took a break, retired, and then you had a chance to restart. You had a new beginning. What advice were you giving yourself in that second beginning? Like, was there certain things that were in your mind? They're like, this run, I'm doing this, or this is what I'm going to do different, or this is what I'm going to do the same. Like, what advice were you giving yourself for that second start?
What a great question. So remember the first time I had no experience, I was doing basically on the job training, learning how am I going to teach my team? What do I need to teach them? Learning the industry while I'm learning the business and, my company and the product and how to build and all that sort of stuff. And so one of the things, actually, I talked about it at DSU, is that personalities do not duplicate, systems duplicate. And so in the first run, what I noticed is that it was the this person show or the that person show or the other person show. And one of the things that happens when you create an organization like that is you're on all the time. You never get any downtime. And so when I created the system this time that we utilize, it's not the Onyx show. So in fact, I love that it's not the Onyx show because I'm not the only thing here. There are so many great leaders. Everybody has something to offer. And so this person leads the Zoom and that person leads the Zoom and the other person leads the Zoom and then Onyx will lead the Zoom. And so we're always trading and moving. So the system is about a lot of people as opposed to just one person. And what that does is it means if somebody gets sick, your business keeps going. It means if somebody earns a free trip, your business keeps going. And so it's beautiful. We all carry a little bit instead of me carrying the whole thing or somebody else carrying the whole thing. So I think that's the biggest thing that I learned. And that was huge.
I think that's powerful. And I want to dive deeper there. And for everybody that listens to this, I also want to point out that one of the great things about this style of business is you can quote unquote restart whenever you want. And what I mean by that is mentally, right? And what I've found is people that continue to achieve long-term is they build the ability to constantly reinvent, constantly restart in the same place, in the same company, in the same business, but mentally go for, right, a new beginning. So whether you're brand new or 1 year in or 10 years in, right, you can mentally press the restart button and take the advice that you're getting right now. Anytime you want, it can be right now in this moment, it can be tomorrow. So Onyx, let's dive deeper there. Let's say that our listeners are like, yeah, I want to go to the next level. I want to restart myself, right? I want to go for a new run. And if your number one piece of advice is systems, what are some of the philosophies around what makes a good system? What are some of the components if someone's listening right now and they want to start becoming system dependent more than person dependent? What advice would you give?
What another great question. Wow. So first of all, I don't like to encourage people to spend time in activities that are not money making. So if you already have a system in your company that is working, plug in. Start using that because you can spend days, weeks, hours, months, even years building systems that won't produce money-making activities. And what are money-making activities to me? It's enrolling people into your business. So you need to find out if you have a system that's already working in your company. And if you do, I encourage you, how do I plug in? How do I become a part of that working system? So do that. If you don't have that, then you're going to need to figure out what's going to work here. And this is a bigger Rubik's Cube in order to dissect, because there's different things that I find that are successful in today's systems. And some of it has to do with your company, with your product, and who's your avatar? Are you attracting the 20 and 30-year-olds? Are you attracting the 50 and 60-year-olds? Are you getting more women? Are you getting more men? So you've got to think about all these things, and you've got to think about your product. And how do I want to teach the regular person with no network marketing experience how to build a company. Because in network marketing, it's not what you know that builds, it's what duplicates. So it's not that I can speak for hours about my product. Who cares? Because when I meet somebody brand new and I speak for hours about my product, they look at me and they say, oh my gosh, I could never do that business. So I just stole their dream. Instead, even though I can speak for hours about my product, I don't. I lean on the system because the system is duplicatable. And what I do is I text a link and I say, oh, you're interested in my product? Let me text you a link. And I text a link. Now that person goes home, reads the link and says to myself, oh, I could do this business. I can text a link. So now I've served them in a way that's appropriate instead of me telling them everything there is to know. So this is a huge shift. And if you come from traditional business, it can be tough because in traditional business, we're taught it's about what you know. In network marketing, it's about what duplicates.
You know, it's so powerful. And I want that to sink in for everybody that hears that. And, you know, I wrote down a couple notes as you're talking. Who's your avatar? Right. And for those of you listening, by that question, who's your audience, right? Who's your target prospect? Who's the perfect person, right? You're trying to attract into your business, getting clear on who you're speaking to when you're designing a system. But that last point, Onyx, I kind of wrote down lowest common denominator, right? So like, what's the simplest set of steps? You said average, right? The average person can do. And you're spot on because in normal professions, it is about how much we know, how good we are. We recognize talent. We celebrate accolades, right? And we're taught that. But in this industry, sometimes that can work against you because then everybody looks at you and says, I can't be you. So I think that's so important. Any tips you give, like, you know, what if you get the person that is the talent? Like they can speak, they can present, right? They know the information, like they are that quote unquote, you know, charismatic expert. What coaching do you give to that person to get them to understand that they might get in their own way and to make the shift to be system dependent?
So the first thing I will remind everyone in network marketing, as in life, you gotta wanna. And so I can drag that horse all the way up the hill. And I'm strong and I have discipline. But when I get to the top of that hill, I cannot get that horse to drink. So you bring in a big personality. I would prefer that personality would lean on the system, but they got to want to. And you're not going to change them from being who they are. They get to be who they are. That's the goal. But for me, what I'm always thinking about is what I call the avatar I call Sally Sue. And Sally Sue is that regular person that's never done network marketing. And so if I'm able to affect Sally Sue's life, either with better health or with better wealth, I think I've done a great thing. The Dalai Lama said in 2009 that the Western woman would change the world. And I think he was right, except what was missing is you have to put money into that woman's hands. Why? Because I find that we women, we spend our money in a very different way. So I love it when I can help Sally Sue make an extra $50,000 a year or an extra $100,000 a year. That's life-changing. I can't even begin to tell you how many of my girlfriends have said, oh my gosh, I got to put my son in this most amazing private school because of network marketing. This opportunity is amazing. Or, oh my gosh, I'm making my mortgage payment every single month because I said yes to network marketing. And I'm consistently and persistently working my business. So when you build a system or when you join a system, to me, it's about, does your system help Sally Sue succeed? And if you've got something that helps the regular person, Sally Sue, succeed, oh my gosh, it can be an out of the ballpark game. And what's out of the ballpark? Sally Sue gets to change your life. And if you have hundreds of thousands of Sally Sues that change your life, you've changed the world.
In your conversation today, if you're meeting somebody at the gym or maybe you're teaching your community the steps to take when they first get started, is the initial conversation starting with like a customer conversation? Is it starting with more of an opportunity entrepreneurial conversation? Is it both in one conversation? Does it depend on the person? Like what's your philosophy here on kind of the beginning of a conversation, whether it's online or offline?
It's actually neither. It's just creating a friendship. So like create a friendship, make a friend today, get someone's contact. That's it. The cool thing about social media, right? Just to give you a little perspective here. And you talked about like your social media is your business card, right? Let's just say I create a friendship today. I just meet someone and we exchange social media. Well, guess what? Now I have, you remember back in the day, we had these email campaigns where they would send an email for like 7 straight days, right? My Instagram story is a never ending email campaign. So this person is going to see me every single day. They're like, Anthony from the gym, that guy, what's he traveling the world? He's doing these events. He's talking about the financial markets. What is this guy doing, right? And people are naturally going to actually want to reach out to me. So a lot of the time, just to surprise you, but a lot of the time people actually are asking me what I'm doing more than me asking them to be a part of it or, hey, check out what I'm actually doing. That's the reality of it. So I think, using these tools properly and just building friendships, that's number one. And I always say, and I said it previously, people won't do business with you if they don't trust you. So just building rapport, building friendship, and seeing where that goes. And I always think you build the pipeline. The pipeline is everything. So let's say I go to the gym today and I meet someone today. That person most likely is not getting started today. But guess what? Now they're in the pipeline. Maybe 90 days from now, that person wants to get started. But I have someone else in the pipeline from 90 days ago that's ready to get started today. So the pipeline always has to be filled with more inventory. It's kind of like your list, right? It's always got to be filled with more inventory. And the more people you put in the pipeline, the more people that are going to be joining your business.
I love that answer. I think it's perfect. So it starts with friendship, actually meeting people just to meet people, getting connected, using the tools, which is normal today. We're connected on Instagram, we're connected on TikTok, whatever your platform is. And then I love the message you gave on your story or your post or your content is today's drip system, is today's follow-up campaign. I love it. I think that's a huge point. So go deeper there. So let's say I got started in your team. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. So now you're teaching me what to do. What is kind of the initial directive? Am I starting on social? Am I starting in a home party? Am I starting just meeting people at the gym? Like I'm brand new, I'm pumped up, and I want to be Anthony when I grow up. What direction are you pointing me?
We're going to start offline. So the first 3 to 6 months, there's no need for social media because you have a warm market. So I'll give you an analogy. Just let's say we own a McDonald's. Okay, and we got thousands of burgers in the freezer. Does it make sense for us to go order thousands of more burgers, or should we sell those burgers to clients before we order more? Okay, so in network marketing, what a lot of people do is they have inventory, but they try to throw in more inventory before they get to the existing inventory, and they rotten that inventory. They destroy that inventory because they do it the wrong way. Let me give you just an example of this. Let's say I'm brand new in network marketing today, first day in the business. Of course, they say the average person by 18 years old knows 1,000 people by first name. Of course, those are mostly acquaintances, maybe 10 real friendships there, but they know 1,000 people by first name. And let's just say you made a list today to start your business and you made a list of 200 names. Okay. Most of those 200 people probably follow you on social media. That's just the reality of the world today. So if I go on my social media the first day and go, I got this business, come join my business, go buy my juice, do this, whatever. You've already turned away half of your audience. Before you even approach them, had a conversation with them, just because they saw your post and they're like, oh, it's one of those things. Or, hey, that's not for me. And literally you message them after the fact and you're like, hey, I'm working on this. Oh, I already saw it. I'm not interested. And you're like, what? So the goal initially is to keep it a secret and actually make people feel important and actually go directly to people so they hear you out. Your job is to get the information in front of people. That is your only job. Your job is not to close people, get people started. Get your information in front of them. How many people have actually heard out the information properly? Did you get someone to a Zoom call, a video, a live event? Okay. We always say in this business, right? Our job is to get butts and seats and eyes on screens. That is the reality of the profession. Get butts and seats and eyes on screens. Get people to see it, because if people see it, they'll want to become a part of it. That's just the numbers game at that point. But if no one's seeing the information, no one's joining the information. So initially, all offline, the first 3 to 6 months, go through that warm market. Then, of course, start having some success, maybe start documenting that success 3 to 6 months later, showcasing it. And then you could work on getting other additional leads because you already have plenty of people to talk to, most people. The reality is simple things that everyone can do to have success. That's what you want to teach. I actually teach a 5-step system. It's really simple, okay? This is what I've been teaching for the last decade. Set up the product or the service, right? Start using the product or the service, become a product of the product, right? Second step, make a list. Third step, master the invite, 4-step edification, 5th-step follow-up. And that's literally it, over and over and over again, duplicated to the new person. Simple things, like I said, that everyone can do.
So Anthony, let's go deeper there one quick, because I know what you mean by the term edification, because I come from the same place. But I will also highlight that's actually probably not a term that's being taught and used in some communities today, of even what that means. What is the art of it? Why do you do it? And how do you use it? Go deeper there.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when I was 18 years old getting involved in this business, no one wanted to hear from Anthony, right? I was a baseball player. I don't know anything about business. But if I put the importance on someone else, someone that has the results that they're looking for, someone who could teach them and be a coach to them, especially as well with friends and family, because they look at you as who you were previously. They don't look at you as a business person today. So putting the importance on that person, letting that person work for me. Think about how crazy this is. You could get involved in my business, Anthony's business, and have Anthony work for you to get you paid. Like, there's no industry like that. You go to Walmart right now, trust me, go get a job at Walmart. Let me know today if you're going to be talking to the CEO of the company. It ain't happening. Okay. The reality is in most professions, of course, people in corporate America don't want you to know what they know because they're afraid that you're going to take their job. That's just first off. In this profession, we're actually teaching everything that we know to the new person because their success actually helps us have success. And that's a very, very unique thing. But like I said, putting the importance on someone else is everything because you're new. You don't have the credibility and people could say, oh, well, this person can actually help me and coach me. I'm not just reliant on the person who's getting me involved. And I think that's so big. And like you said, it is a lost art because everyone's about me, 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 me. Well, no, forget about you a second. Let's put the importance on that guy. Let's start making you money. And guess what? Then people will be talking about you. That's the reality of how the game goes.
And it works because the people you're talking to, you have a relationship with. Most relationships are rooted in some element of trust. It might not be 100%, but there's trust there as a foundation. So when you, like Anthony is explaining, speak highly of somebody else, you build value for somebody else, you create a respect for somebody else, you, by nature of your trust, now put that person in a place to be listened to and heard in a different way, and you can move people forward. So I thank you for diving into that because you can do that at any point, and it does work, and it is an art. And I know for you, it's one of the 5 steps that your community uses, but for a lot of people, that might be new information. What shifts are you seeing? Are you feeling today, right? In the now? How is building today different, right, than the first run? Would love for you to elaborate.
The reality is, today I was nervous to build a business. That's the reason why I didn't really want to build again, because I'm thinking, I know social media. I was on Facebook and I was on Instagram, but a lot of that following needed to go away with the parting of my last role. And so I had to start accounts over. I didn't have big followings. And I thought, there's no way, I don't have enough influence. But we forget that we have influence. It may not be online, but you have influence in your communities, your churches, your wherever you show up, your pickleball court, your gym, wherever you are, you have some influence. And so the reason why I was able to enroll so many people on my first day was all the relationships over time. I don't burn bridges. I do not believe in burning bridges. I love to keep relationships going because, I don't know, people are important, right? What we breathe into people is important. And so I just had a lot of people that came out of the woodwork over 30 years saying, hey, I want to do what you're doing. I want an extra $500 or whatever that looks like for them. So I would say, so some of the biggest shifts now are moving from, doing everything in person to literally 100% online. I think most companies are probably in that boat right now where most of us are doing almost entirely 100% of our business from a phone or through Zoom meetings, of course. But I mean, most of the posting you're doing on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of the things are all from your phone. And it takes some strategy. It takes some thought process. So I've had to learn new skill sets that I never thought that I would have to learn. I spend a lot of time training myself, watching YouTube videos on how to do something. I didn't know how to do a story. I didn't know how to do Facebook Live, if that gives you any hope 2 years ago. I didn't know how to do any of that. And now I'm teaching myself TikTok. I'm still not doing much for TikTok, but I'm doing a lot from stories and posts and things like that. There's that. So there's that shift, right? And then the other piece of that is our mindset as a leader, a top leader right now, has got to shift. We have to shift because the industry is shifting faster than most people. And figuring out that we're going to have to be okay with change, especially if you've been in the industry a long time. We've got to be okay with change and get ahead of it rather than being behind the boat. So I would say those are some of the biggest ones for me.
I know you're really big on vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? On casting vision, on helping people create a vision, and I think it's fitting as we're launching a brand new year. What guidance can you give on how you create a compelling vision, first for yourself, and then for others within your team?
Yeah. So I will like to take at least a day somewhere in the next 2 weeks to do a new vision board. So you might think I'm crazy. When I was younger, I was like, there's no way that stuff works. There's no way that stuff works. Well, friends, I'm just going to say this. Go do some research on billionaires. Guess what they do? They write down their goals and they look at them and they visualize them and they think about what success looks like when it happens. So when you show up in success, it's like you already did it so many times, it isn't anything new, right? There's no nerves, there's no nothing. You show up in the spot that you've been thinking about forever. So for me, it's to sit down over the next couple of weeks and really think about, what do I want quarterly for the year or at the end of the year, and then back it down to quarters. I'm kind of a freak that way. I love strategy. So for me, I like to build a vision, but then back into it with strategy. And so I like to look at, okay, for me, it's going to be either an income goal. It's going to be a people development goal. It's going to be a volume goal. It's going to be, what does my family get to do? My biggest dream last year was that I wanted to be able to afford to take my family on 4 vacations. We went on 6. We went on 6. It's like, what? How does this?
What was your favorite?
Well, Disney World. We're Disney fans. So we do Disney with our kids. We got married at Disney, it's the way it goes. So my kids.
I love Disney. I'm a Walt fan. I love that. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I was just curious. I want to know. Keep going.
No worries. Yeah. So I will sit down and do then a vision board. So I'll start, the littlest thing, you guys, inside my planner, it's a 5x7 and there's 2 pages for a vision board. So I'm not hanging up an ugly tag board in my office because I'm picky about my house. So I know those of you out there watching this that go, I have a beautiful office. I don't want to mess up the walls. I get it. So I put mine in my planner and I open it every day before I do my gratitude. First thing I look at is my vision board. And it's easy stuff. I cut it out of the computer. I don't like my own handwriting, so I don't make it tough. I make it easy. I cut out a couple of things, slap it in the book and shut it. But those things, I've learned 20 some years ago, somebody said to me once, 80% of what you look at and visualize comes to fruition. And I thought, there's no way that's true. My first goal poster, I should have grabbed it and shown it to the watchers today, because that first goal poster, about 85% of it came true in the first 12 months. So I double dog dare you all to really make a vision board, because you may not really believe in it. I didn't either, but I do them all the time because I feel like that is something you need to set that kind of groundwork for yourself. But then it's rolling that vision over into your team. That's the next piece, right? Is being able to communicate that. And so I really feel like you've got to get them all in a space. We're doing a New Year kickoff. I'm sure every leader out there is doing a New Year kickoff to get their team started. And now that we're in the new year, when this goes live, hopefully you've done something like that. And it's communicating your vision in a way where, what if this changes everything? That was one of the companies that I work for. That was their tagline. And I still to this day love it. Like, what if this decision changes everything for you? So what could life look like if you had another $500, another $1,000 a month, another $5,000 a month? I need them to start dreaming. Like, what does life look like? And you have to get them in a space where they'll write it down. Write down what life looks like if you had enough money to do what you wanted to do. That's when they can start to dream, because most people have what I would call a girdle around their brain, right? It's laced up and tightened, and you got to let them unlock the girdle on their brain and really start to dream again. So it's having them do the same thing, right? Getting them going with the vision board at the beginning of the year and then backing it down with strategy and having the guts to get in the strategy with them so they know what it takes on a daily basis.
Are there any other habits that you have found doing consistently lead to success in this space? Things that you have adopted, you've given us a few already, or things that you've seen others in your team adopt that have led to where they want to go at kind of the daily habit level? I'm curious.
Yeah, I would say two that to me are very, very specific. One is going to be a little fluffy. One is much more tactical. So the fluffy one I would say is self-care. So you may think, man, self-care. Yeah, I know. If you're a top leader and you're listening to this, you probably don't even know what self-care is right now because you're running 100 miles an hour, right? I've done that too. But in the moments, in fact, I was just having a conversation with our CEO yesterday, and I said, I have learned in the last 6 months boundaries. I have to give myself boundaries. So I will work from the second I get up till the second I go to bed, and I'll be like, family, what? Who are these people in my house? And it starts to wear on you over time, right? And so you're just not as fresh. You're not as ready. You're not as on it. Not as on fire when you don't have those boundaries. So I love to have the boundaries, and within those boundaries, allow myself things like that I never did until 6 months ago, working out every day at the gym, taking time to go shopping if that's what I want to do, read a book and not feel guilty because I'm sitting on the couch. You have to allow yourself those things because then you're fresh and you're ready. So I would say that. And then the second thing is something that I did not do first time around, belly to belly, and I wished I would have listened to my uplines at that point, is to do a daily power hour. I told you I was really good at creative avoidance, and I knew that was going to be the devil for me this time around because I love to create systems and design graphics, and I'm good at it. It's a skill set for me, but it'll suck up my whole day. And so one of the things I've had to be really specific about is every day for 1 hour, I've got to do some kind of reach outs, follow-ups, reach outs, connecting, leaving voice clips for my team, breathing belief into them, painting the picture of what it's like when they reach their goals, those types of things. It just has to. So 5 days a week, a power hour every day. Stay into some consistent activity. Learn the social selling skills that you need. Just know that none of us knew those. We all had to teach them to ourselves. So choose to learn them, right? For those of you who are leaders, I just want to say that our number one job is to paint the picture and help other people see themselves in it. That is it. That is our job, is to paint the picture, show people vision about where they can go and what it looks like when they show up in that vision. You're going to change so many lives in the next year or 2 or 3 that it's going to be ridiculous. And this industry is going to grow and evolve and become into something so amazing. We're all going to be continually so proud to be part of it.
I want to debunk a myth real quick, because I hear this a lot. I'm sure you guys have heard this throughout your career. I mean, there's a lot of people, for some reason, they think they got to be at the beginning of something, right? The start of a company or, a new idea or, in the first year. And here you guys, right? You made a decision late in your career, right? Having that perspective to join a company that's been around for 2 decades. And in the last 2 years have been a big part of a huge growth story on a legacy company. So here's my question, right? For everybody out there that maybe has a goal to create new energy, new momentum, new culture in an existing company or existing culture. How are you guys doing it? How are you creating new energy in what was an older existing culture? I would love insight there.
When we first got in here, we used the word launch. We're launching. I don't care. The company's been around 50 years. We are launching. Yeah. And the other thing we did when we go on a tour, we call it wake up call. So I like those 2 different things because it really does. It makes people aware. It opens their eyes up. Yeah. They see this company, you're launching, but it's been around. Yeah, no one knows about it.
Yeah. Nobody knows our industry. We are confident that there couldn't be a better time
absolutely
to be starting this type of business. Now, I am not going to say that I knew that 26 months ago when we started, but now I am really confident because of the economic situation we're in that we have to teach the power of the compound effect or duplication. Yes. And nobody has been taught this their whole life. They've actually pushed us, push people away. I've got, with 36 years in the industry, one thing that I find now is it's like when we homeschooled our kids, everybody thought we were crazy, but now people think it's normal to homeschool your kids. It's actually great. It's a blessing if you could, okay? It's almost this exact same timing for this industry that it's blowing my mind. What I mean is that for about 3 decades, people would say, I'm going to stick with my job, my 401k, my boss, everything I have. You guys are crazy to do that because we've got everything made here. Our company is keeping up with the cost of living, everything. Well, now that everything has changed and everyone cannot keep up with their own sweat equity, what I mean is if you're a doctor, your own sweat equity. Me and her, flight attendant, at the time after I retired from being a skier, I was a sales rep. As long as we were showing up for work, we got paid only for our own effort. You can't keep up with the cost of the cars that are being produced today. They're 3 times what they were a few years ago. Cost of going out to dinner, cost of groceries. You have to understand the power of duplication, which is a teaching point that you could be teaching these people. You wonder why you don't have the extra funds that you need or the free time is because you are putting in all the sweat equity. So now the people are waking up. Now, I do have an issue with people that say, oh, that person was in network marketing, they're lucky. Now, wait a minute. You can't have it both ways. You call this out for 3 decades saying, I would never, ever do that. You're not going to have any friends. You won't know nothing. And all of a sudden you're saying, oh, you guys have all the friends, everything. So maybe you want to wake up and say, this was the way to be going. And it is the moment right now. And people are waking up. Now, some of them still want to stay in that denial, but others are waking up saying, hey, maybe I didn't learn those skill sets. They're not that hard. We actually learned them in our career as a flight attendant and having my own training center. We had to have people skills. We had to promote. Same exact things that you need to do here. A lot of people already have that if they just brought that over to the table like we did. But people are waking up to the fact. But don't call anybody that's been in networking lucky when we know what they were called for the last 3 to 4 decades. Am I right?
I love it. You're fired up. I want to go deeper there because you're really touching on the power of now and kind of what's happening in the world. But I love your guys' story because there's so many people, and I know a lot of our listeners, they think that in order to create a new energy, they got to go find something new or get lost in the shiny object game. And I love your language because you're saying, no, you can have a legacy company. It's not about the company, what's around you. It's about your energy, your language, right? What you're transferring, your belief. And you guys are doing it, right? And you can totally reinvent not only your business, but the very company that you're a part of with a decision. So thank you guys for being that example. Steve, Angie, let's go deeper where you were going. So kind of shifts in the world right now. There's a lot, right? Shifts in the channel, right? As an industry of direct selling across the world, there's a lot. And you guys have the perspective of now 36 years at extreme success and what it takes to get there. What else are you seeing? What other shifts are you seeing now, right? And then now with your team, how are you navigating the group? It might be a belief shift. It might be a timing shift. It might be a tactic shift or a skill set shift. What are you seeing, and really what message are you driving into the community that's creating the momentum you're seeing today?
I really feel like we have fire. Fire is really important when you are in your business. It doesn't matter, for those of you who are listening, if you've been in your industry for 20 years or you've been in for 2 years or 1 month, you got to have the fire. When people see the fire in you, and you don't be weird fire, be your normal fire, but step it up a little bit. Yeah. And I remember that on the airplane. When you walk onto the airplane and someone says, welcome aboard Delta Airlines. I mean, you're like, oh, okay, well, she's excited. No, welcome aboard Delta Airlines. Do you know where your seat is? It's just a different way and you say it. And I think that if people are meeting people or contacting people or even following up with people that they've already prospected, they got to put a little bit of fire in it. Or they say, you know what? Hey, I'm really sorry. I called you. But listen, I got to tell you something. I was completely wrong. This is bigger than I thought. Yeah. Shift it like that. You can do so many things in your industry to create that fire and that energy, because that's really, people all want more. They just are unaware that this industry can give it to them.
So Gina, let's go deeper there because you guys have the fire. We can see it. We can feel it. Obviously, you're transferring it. But if I'm someone listening right now, and let's say in my mind, it's like, I think I can have the fire. I really want the fire. I see you guys have the fire. How do I find my fire? Right? What coaching or what advice would you give to someone that wants to have it, that sees the importance of it, but maybe is struggling in the season they're in right now to find their own fire to transfer to others? What advice do you give?
I would tell them to start reading, because your mindset is completely, like we do a book of the month with our team. Yeah. Sometimes it could be a little bit more of a religious book. Sometimes it's not. Maybe it's just completely principles on how to build and how to find quality people or how to shift their mind. So I believe reading is really, or even listening to podcasts. I mean, you can catch fire from any of that. And a lot of people are going from A to B, whether it's home to work or work to home, or whether it's out to do a presentation, whatever it is. Those podcasts, man, and even music can fire you up, right?
And I believe this is why our team is rocking what we're doing, is because we do have quality events that people can attend. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you have just a cheap little $15, $30 event, you don't really have to invest to fly in to get there to experience. Now, believe me, we deliver. Event. We deliver on these events, but they have to invest to come there. And if you're not willing to do that, that's where the fire happens. I mean, when you come to these events,
absolutely.
We've been doing this for 36 years, going to events. So we know that when you come to one of these, you will get it inside you. You start getting in your eyes. It's almost like you walk out and somebody says, sign me up. And you don't even know, you didn't even say anything because they see it in your eyes. It's like a whole different, it's like an unfair playing field when you go to one of these events.
Steve, how often are you guys doing events? Like in an annual calendar, how many times are you in person? How many times are you virtual? What's kind of an average event flow look like for you guys?
Well, we believe after what we've seen in the last 26 months, they used to have them every quarter. And I hate when people say, I spent all this money, didn't make money. So we don't like to waste anybody's money. We're having success with one annual big event with everybody.
Everyone's there.
In fact, the company's grown $200 million 2 years in a row because of the two events we do. We one virtual and one in person. So the virtual, we kick off early in the year. We like to kick off like the second week of January to get everybody out of the blocks quickly. And then we have an event in the summer. And then the power to the event, and some people miss this, so I don't want anyone to miss it, is if we believe this is the most important thing for me of the whole success in your business is attending these events, you can't attend them alone. So a lot of people think that these are like some kind of motivation events that they're going to motivate you. No, they really are for you, a training for your team to take and build and go and build their business so that you're duplicating your efforts. If you don't have anyone there, then you're still kind of like your career or job. You're the only one working. You've got to get people in the seats learning how to build this business so that now the duplication effect is happening in your company.
Was there any specific mentor, or was there a specific kind of mindset shift or something you grabbed onto that kind of helped you stay the course when all of a sudden you veered right? 15 months before you made your first 100 pounds, people thought you're nuts. Your mom's kicking you out of the house. It's not working the way that you expected. You're going against the grain. Like, what kept you going that direction versus the self-doubt getting the best of you, or maybe going back to that traditional path?
Yeah, in those days, and this is a long time ago, anyone under 35 is going to be scratching their head as to what I'm talking about. But in those days, we had audio cassette tapes. I'll have to explain what they are to you as well, because I know that you're... But we had audio cassette tapes. And so I was listening to all these audio cassette tapes, Randy Gage, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, and things like that. And I was hearing these messages about do today what others won't, so you can do tomorrow what others can't. And that, I think, was one of the things that really kept me going. I knew I was doing what other people wouldn't, but believed that by doing that, it would mean in later, down the line, I can do what others can't. And that proved to be true. I remember Randy Gage talking about that this opportunity, these opportunities are a chance for us to become unimportant to the creation of our income. And of course, that I just was hooked on that idea that you can build a team, you can build an organization, you can help other people become hopefully better than you. And in doing so, you then don't dictate your income. You're completely non-essential to it. And that really, really, things like that just hooked me in. And I think it would have taken something cataclysmic for me to steer off once I kind of got that message in.
I love that, because I think most entrepreneurs, if they look back on their journey, right, it was some outside influence, some mentor. Maybe it's not an audio cassette tape today, right? Maybe today it's a podcast. Maybe today it's a conversation like this, but you grab onto one
new belief, and that one right belief can get you through, right, all the way to another side. So 15 months to make your first 100 pounds. And for those of you guys in the US, 100 pounds is not a lot of money, right? So, and then did I read your story correctly or understand your story correctly? Was it around 15 years for you to kind of reach the top pinnacle within your company? Is that accurate?
Yes, that's 100%. It was at least 15. It might have been 17 years it took me to reach the top level in my company. Other people had done it, not many people, but maybe 5 or 6 or 7 people had done it, but they'd all done it in 4 or 5 or 6 years. They'd had industry experience, perhaps in some cases. And so to me, that was it looked like a glass ceiling for a long time. But I find it frustrating when you look on social media and people are kind of trying to tell a story that makes out that they've hit the top within 2 weeks or 2 months or something. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that's helpful to the masses. It might feel good to somebody's ego or whatever that's posting it, but to the masses who are trying to juggle jobs and families and all the other things, that's not helpful. So for me, I was actually quite proud of that it took me a long time, but I stuck in there.
Wes, I love that story, and thank you for saying what you just said, because we all hear those stories, right? The person that hit the top in an incredible time frame and shattered records, and they always forget to tell the other half of the story of, well, yeah, but they had spent a decade before learning their skill, building a network, building influence, building a brand, right? They weren't starting at a scratch starting line, but we don't hear those parts of the story as often as we should. So thank you for highlighting that and respect for 15 years, right? Staying the course in one place for one community and reaching the top. I mean, I think that is the story and the example that we all should aspire to. Let me ask you this, and I've never asked somebody this question. This is just my observation. I'm curious from your vantage point if you've seen the same. I've seen that it appears the longer it takes somebody to reach their milestone, I'm not going to call it the top, right? But whatever that dream milestone is, the slower that it feels like it takes, it seems like the higher the chances of them sustaining and staying there are. And what I mean is the inverse. Sometimes the things that come so fast and so easy are fleeting, right? And it seems like to me that those overnight successes they reach the top quick, but they're kind of gone quick. I'm curious your perspective on that, especially out there in the UK, 25 years in the industry, if you've seen that pattern.
1000%. Yeah, absolutely. Through my company and friends that are in the UK that are in other businesses, we see these people, and of course we're excited when they end up in our organization somewhere and they start hitting the first level and the second level and the third level in record time. But I'm always very, very conscious in my team meetings and Zooms and events to make sure we don't over-index on spotlighting those people. Of course, we want to recognize people's achievements, but I always try and make sure it is very, very balanced or almost skewed towards the people that have been consistent performers over a period of time, because that's the reality for most people. Most people, as you said before, they don't have the several years of building social clout or kudos or organizations that follow them. And so I think it's really important, and it's something that I've always really pushed towards, those kind of the stayers. Those are the people that ultimately I think will build our business. And I don't see much evidence in my company, if I think about it, and this is over 25 years, of people flying to the very, very top who didn't have industry experience or didn't have social clout already or kudos, who actually stick with it. They often seem to like the shiny objects, and then a few months later, something else catches their eye, and they're just addicted to the building process.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put in the work, no matter what, no matter who you are, where you are, what you're building, what you're passionate about. You got to put in the work. I once heard someone say, you're either going to pay the price on the way up or you're going to pay the price on the way down. In other words, you're going to either pay the price to do the growth, right? Learn the things, right? Really become who you can to get to where you are. Or if you skip that part and somehow you find yourself on the top for a minute, you're going to pay the price on the way down, learning those things of why you can't stay there. So I love your story. And I love that you highlighted you were proud of that kind of 15-year journey. Now, piggybacking what you just said, because we are in a time today where, like, you call it shiny objects, right? There is so much opportunity. We're all connected in the digital world. We're all getting advertised to, millions of times a day. And what advice do you have with your story, right? 26 years, one path, 15 years to the top, juxtaposing that to today's entrepreneur, that it's hard to stay focused for long enough to get the result with where they're at. What advice are you giving to new entrepreneurs starting their journey to help them stay that course?
I think it's about trying to help people. And this, as you say, this regularly comes up where people see something online or one of their friends, says, oh yeah, but what about this over here? And it's about trying to help them realize that, you have to choose your hard, like our business, my business is hard to build, but so is that business. Like choose your hard, like it's not going to be any easier over there. You're taking, if you think it's easier and everyone's going to want to join you because the product looks a little bit shinier or a little bit sexier, don't forget you're taking the same set of skills that you couldn't build with over here, over there. So what's going to change? Is it really going to change? And it's trying to help people realize that if they can't do it in one company because they can't say the right words, or they can't prospect properly, or they're not consistent enough, or they don't put the time in. Why is it going to be different? You're taking the same character traits over there. What I'd rather do that I've done is plant your flag, choose the right business. And I appreciate I have been fortunate to find a business that stayed the course. I know that that's not everybody's story. So sometimes people do have to, make a shift. But plant your flag and, build it once, build it big, and build it to last a lifetime.